Late Fees by Mr. Numbers. Twilight Sparkle had had a short life, but it had been incredibly busy. She couldn't even stop to take a cup of tea most days without some tentacle monsters swarming from the teapot and snatching a clotted cream from the scones tray. She had been shocked at first, as she gently set the teapot back down on the table before being careful not to disturb the dolly she set it upon more than necessary, and swore to never, ever, under any circumstances. She dropped out of the sky in front of his cart, with her 2 Royal Guard Pegasi landing behind. 2 scoops of vanilla, please. The chunky earth pony running the cart didn't even seem to notice the royal princess, but carefully hoofed out a cone and applied 2 generous scoops of creamy, white, sugary goodness. "That'll be 2 bits, ma'am." The raspberry coat of the vendor paled as he suddenly realized who was standing in front of him. I mean, your highness." "That's perfectly fine," she chuckled as she took a lick of the ice cream. Marvellous. Just let me get..." The small compartment in her yoke of office, where she kept loose change, was empty. Now that she'd been finishing her daily work early, she decided it was finally time to do so. But for some reason, every pony seemed to think she was making a joke, and in her opinion, way too many of them thought it was funny. She shifted uncomfortably on the cloud the 2 were sharing, suddenly finding her hooves very interesting. "I figured since you're probably more experienced in the area, you could help me?" Dipping into the warm western trade winds, only to bear her here, so very far beyond the borders of fair Equestria. Though it was a simple enough matter for her to make such a flight, being an eternal. She was now 2 weeks from Canterlot as the Pegasus flew, with little idea as to why. What she did have was that nagging feeling in the back of her mind, but one she'd noticed accompanied her ever since the Everfree, and what little sense it decided to make told her that in this moment she was supposed to be here. This was not the pony known by all in the far past. Her general appearance has been altered by continuous use of dark magic. Her coat had its natural purple colour, and her mane and tail had its usual dark indigo colour with streaks of purple and pink. But her eyes were obviously unusual and unnatural. The sclera of her eyes glowed bright green, her irises were blood red, and her pupils both black and snake-like. Like King Sombra, a slight smoky trail of purple emanated from her eyes. "And did the princess," Discord made no effort to mask the sneer in his voice, "have an explanation? She said she had noticed that I'd never seemed to look any older, but hadn't given much thought to it. It was a big surprise to me, because I never noticed it at all." Discord's tail relaxed by degrees. "So, Twilight thinks Rarity is overreacting." "She must be. It's not like I'm doing anything special." He's never seen it before, not even in the dusty, corroded images that spring to mind when he thinks about the migration. He thinks about kicking the meat away, just out of spite, and also because he wants those unfamiliar instincts and feelings to disappear. They are not his memories. He's seen black claws moving, slashing, orange fire burning, the primal joy of taking to the sky under a sweep of his mighty wings. Hunger, pain, sorrow, anger, fear. The smell of roasted flesh, crisp snow, and blood. Plans, glimpses of lines and maps. The sea, so wide even from so high up. "It's real. How could this happen? How can I write so badly?" She turns her gaze towards the offending piece of parchment. "That thing is pure poison, an abomination to ponykind. It shall never see the light of day." Energetically, she rises up from her sitting position and stares down at the horrendous piece of writing with piercing gaze. "Stand back, foul demon! I have fire!" "I still have nightmares about the Equestria's largest bug museum." "Well, that doesn't sound too bad," Twilight commented. "Oh no, Twilight, you misunderstand. That it wasn't the largest museum of bugs in Equestria. It was a museum that focused on featuring very, very, very large bugs. I saw a spider the size of Opal." Both men shivered at the thought of such a large arachnid, and Twilight gave a very nervous laugh. "Okay, I'll admit, that's creepy." There was nothing to hide, her alicorn nature, or the diamond-shaped pupils of her eyes. "I'm going to save Twilight," he shouted at her. "Something took her and..." Once more, the tolling of the bells filled the air, drawing Spike's attention back to the castle on the horizon. The spires of the castle bent back, creaking and groaning as they formed something of a stage with the top of the castle's outer walls. There, in the centre of it all, he saw Twilight's silhouette against the moon, and she was standing beneath the hangman's noose. The blood in Spike's veins turned to ice, and he could only watch as another silhouette stepped into view. I guess you're right, Dash sighed, very much annoyed that she would have to make an unwanted trip. I guess I better get going. Hope everything works out there. Fluttershy prayed as she watched Dash gloomfully lift off the ground and into the sky. Yeah, me too, Dash huffed. She knew it was going to be a disaster. It always was. What are you doing? Rainbow was watching her with a raised eyebrow. Huh? I'm preening like you said. Has anyone ever taught you how to preen? No, none of you adults at the orphanage are Pegasi. Why? Because you're being way too rough on your feathers. No wonder it takes you forever to preen. Each time you fix one of your feathers, you mess up half the ones around it. Well, what am I supposed to do? She asked, scratching an ear with a hoof. The guard turned to Twilight, who was looking rather annoyed at this point. Princess, did you or did you not say, normally I go for 20 bits, but for you, I'll go as low as 10? Twilight grimaced. Yes, I said that. It was part of the joke, she exclaimed as she flared her wings in frustration. Unfazed, the guard replied stoically. Solicitation of sexual services by an unregistered pony is not a joke, Princess. Now, if you have no further objections, please come with us to the mayor's office so we can resolve this issue. The whole thing was stupid, and it was all made worse by the ponies attempting to break through the front doors. The doctor left the room and then came back after a short period of time, holding a clipboard. It would appear, Miss Hooves, that you have microscopic Derpy looked at him quizzically. I thought you were an eye doctor, though. What do you mean? He replied. That's a lung disease. Plus, I haven't been around any volcanoes lately. The doctor stood stunned. Miss Hooves, may I ask how you know that word? Ruby walked up to Celestia as Luna continued rolling on the ground behind the sea pony. A great wall of dust formed as Ruby spoke. Apparently, your sister has never washed her hair, and as a result, a race of sentient microbeings have taken up residence, researched and perfected the use of space travel, and now have started an interstellar conflict where they are using orbital pulse cannons to battle across the depths of her mainverse. They've already destroyed one star and attacked a mining colony on Ulysses. All right, Twilight said with a small giggle. She packed away her pageant script, and then, using her magic, began to clear away some of the condensation that had built up on the inside of the window. Winter had settled into Equestria, and it was a particularly cold one. Even in the heated train, Twilight, Nyx and Spike were bundled up in scarves, trying to keep back the draft coming off the windows. Caramel, please step outside, the voice in his ears rang. Why? Because I wish to do horrible, unspeakable things to you now, and I wish to do it somewhere less flammable. Oh, Caramel muttered sadly as he shuffled to the door. Wait, he said, stopping momentarily. Does that mean if I don't go outside you won't do horrible... Oh, I forgot you can teleport me. The calendar hung on the opposite wall, pages yellowing and covered with a year's worth of scribbles. All of the scribbles her own. Yes, she'd wasted enough time. She blew stray strands of her mane out of her eyes with a quick blast of breath as she glanced down at the display in front of her. An almost completed checklist lay next to 10 prone forms wrapped in golden armour. The guards lay sleeping, piled up against the wall, their helmet plumes brushing against the window. She would have to thank her prestigious magical power level and her almost encyclopedic knowledge for that. For those moments when Celestia stretched forth her will to raise it, she and the sun were almost one, both burning bright with the energies of light and life itself. Calling it magic scarcely seemed to do it justice. To do such a thing, one had to become part of nature on the most primal, universal level itself. As old as she was, Celestia still found it exhilarating.
Dear daughter, Spike is okay? Good. This package was too big to send via regular mail. Guess who wrote 300 more pages? Waiting for you to send the proofread pages. Mum. Dear Mum and Dad, I thought I was clear enough when I told you just how great Spike's pain was after you sent me so many pages at once the first time. I swear to Celestia, if I have to feed him through his nose for another week because of this, I am going to have to write a royal decree to have your names changed to Goofy Legs and Jingle Doodle. Signed, Twilight Sparkle, with an unconscious and gagging dragon as an assistant. Again!